Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we found our game of the year. I know it's only March, but it's unlikely that anything... Oh, right. Resident Evil 9 is the latest game in the 30-year franchise. My, has it aged gracefully. Get it? Gracefully? I'm sorry. Quick note, I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as possible so you can experience it for yourself. I'm just going to share my thoughts on the game as a whole. The story kicks off strong with Miss Grace Ashcroft, a new face to the franchise, being asked not so nicely to investigate an incident that happened at the same hotel that she was traumatized by 8 years prior.
Perhaps it's time for you to face the past.
What kind of boss is that? Jeez. HR is going to hear about this, I swear. Grace is hesitant, but powers through and tries her best to do her job at the FBI. She arrives at the hotel only to find that she has herself a stalker. I know she's beautiful, but this is overkill. One Victor Gideon, this game's main villain. Man, did they knock it out of the park with this guy. Resident Evil has a few memorable main villains, but mostly relies on the monsters to do the heavy lifting. But this one really stuck out to me, and he's just one of those characters that you hate but can't help but find charismatic at the same time. He's certainly creepy and imposing. His voice actor really sells his calculated demeanor very well and holds his own with the many characters he interacts with.
We have so much to do.
He creeps the hell out of Grace and makes it known that he's got plans for her, setting up the plot for the rest of the game. Grace quickly realizes she's out of her depth with this guy and finds herself kidnapped. Thankfully, she doesn't find herself alone on this one, because to combat this new threat, they sent out their most lethal weapon. That's right, Leon. Sorry, Grace, you're gonna have to share some screen time. Cause Leon S. motherfucking Kennedy is back, baby. Everything is gonna be A-okay. It's good to see him back. The years have caught up to him naturally, but he's still as proficient as he was all those years ago. I'd even say more so. He's picked up a few new tricks and has clearly just lost all patience for this nonsense. It's now Leon's job to get Grace out of this predicament, and stop whatever plan this Gideon guy has in the works. What follows is a game of ping pong from Grace's and Leon's perspectives, which gives us an outlet for the two types of gameplay this game offers. Grace isn't trained for combat and is clearly easily frightened. So instead of facing her threats head on, she has to rely on her ability to sneak around and find opportune moments to sneak past her enemies. I really like this approach to gameplay. I instantly recognized it as being inspired by my former favorite horror game, Alien Isolation. The way that Grace has to time her movements and can't easily fight her way out of everything really reminds me of that this is a horror game first and foremost. The terrifying enemies make their presence known, and you quickly realize that just because you have a gun doesn't mean you're in the clear. Using distractions to clear a path is also essential to getting through Grace's sections. You find small items that can be used to draw away enemies and help you move through the halls of the different locations that the game takes you to. Being a Resident Evil game, crafting also plays a big part. Gotta have a few health items to survive after all. Grace does things a bit different though. Instead of just sticking things together, she uses zombie blood. I like this girl. You can now collect blood using a new tool you find. This lets you manifest things out of thin air, ranging from health items, bullets, and even eventually Molotovs. It makes absolutely no sense, but it's Resident Evil. It stopped making sense a long time ago. Grace's sections take up a large chunk of the first half of the game. It's clearly used to get to know her, but in my opinion, they're some of the most enjoyable parts of the game. Grace in herself is a breath of fresh air for the franchise. She's incredibly timid, and her reactions to these circumstances is very appropriate for someone that isn't used to these things like Leon or Jill. One criticism I had for Ethan Winters was how he was supposedly a normal guy and somehow fought his way through multiple titans and saved the day. Here we get none of that. Grace is as helpless as anyone else would be. Sure, she worked for the FBI, but come on. I don't think training went over recovering from zombie bites or giant blind babies. Alright, pretty sure that's the last we'll ever see of that.
What's going on?
I was joking. So we stick to the shadows as Grace, having to be more strategic. But what about those of us that want to fulfill a power fantasy? Oh, don't worry. I'm not done just yet. Leon the Goat Kennedy. You have been missed. In case sneaking around isn't your style, you luckily aren't stuck hiding behind a desk. Most of the first half of the game was Grace's introduction. After that, we main Leon for longer stretches of time. This is where Capcom shows us just how much they've learned after so many games and remakes. After playing Resident Evil 4 Remake, I felt right at home playing Requiem. There we go. There we go. Resident Evil 4 was the last game that came out before this one, so clearly it had the biggest impact on how our favorite protagonist plays this time around. The action is mostly just Resident Evil 4 with a few tweaks, and not that that's a bad thing. Sr. Kennedy is just as efficient with all weapons known to man as he was 20 years ago. One thing I noticed, however, Leon just plays and feels just a little slower than past games. Maybe it's just me, but I like to think that it's on purpose to tie into how much older he is now and the events of the story. But he's far from being any less of a killing machine. This time around, he adds a new weapon to experiment with. Leon now hacks his enemies with a hatchet, which changes up the gameplay slightly. With the hatchet, its durability is lower than the knives, which means that you'll have to use it sparingly and at the right moments. Thankfully, we don't have to wait for someone to patch it up for us. Leon now carries around a sharpening stone, which he uses to restore his axe. You heard that right. You can now reload your hatchet. I love this game. Sharpening doesn't take that long, but it leaves you vulnerable, so it's best to do it while you have some space to yourself. You can use it pretty much how you could use your knife, slashing at enemies, performing finishers, and parrying the right attacks. Which means that Leon isn't the only one that has melee weapons. Like past games, enemies bring their own items to the table. One big difference this time though, when you take them down, you can now pick up their weapons for a moment and wreak havoc. That's right, Leon's getting his revenge this time. This feels like the necessary step up from earlier games. Leon's getting tired here and he doesn't think twice about completely smashing your brain in. Speaking on the story real quick, it's clearly tailored for more longtime fans than complete newcomers. I wouldn't recommend this being your first game just so you can enjoy what the story beats mean. No spoilers, so I'll just say that Requiem was a fitting title. Grace Ashcroft plays a very large role as you'd imagine and gets the most attention and has the biggest impact. Leon is almost a supporting role, but by no means does he feel stale. Every single game he's been in has led him to this exact moment, and longtime fans will absolutely appreciate the events of this game. He's still the same Leon, still haunted by that damn night in Raccoon City, and that ghost only gets closer and closer the further he tries to distance himself. The story in itself starts off pretty interesting. Victor is a mysterious villain, and you wonder what he could possibly want with Grace. As things start to knit together, it adds to the lore of the franchise and ties most of the numbered titles together. Then there's the ending. I won't talk specifics, but to me it fell just a little bit flat. Overall I liked it, and I saw the credits with a big smile on my face, but after thinking about it, I just felt that it was anticlimactic. Maybe it's just me thinking too much about it. I like seeing the elements that they brought back, like Raccoon City. It still works. No. But in retrospect, not all of them were necessary to tell this story. This was really disappointing for me because it's the main reason why I can't personally put it above Resident Evil 4. Everything else was clearly an improvement, but the ending being inconsistent with the rest of the game drops it by half a point for me, which is a shame because I really enjoyed my time with it. Come on, dude. This game was so good. It was so good. It was the best game I've played in a little while that I've actually looked forward to. I think it's pretty much the score, the Metacritic score. I think it's pretty appropriate. I'll say this as plainly as I can. This is the best looking game I have ever played. There were so many times during my playthrough that I forgot this was a game. It was almost immersive breaking, ironically, because I thought I was watching a live action film. Then suddenly I was reminded that this was a game. Cutscenes look breathtaking on PC, and I hear consoles look just as good. The facial animations look straight up amazing. Grace especially has some great details that really sell just how terrified she is. She shakes and stumbles when she's in real danger, and obviously calms down when she reaches the rest area. Attention to detail is also pretty great. The fact that Capcom put in the effort to change up animations for different scenarios and outfits gives me even more respect for this game. Another thing I found great was the thought that was put into the behavior of the enemies. Before, they just roamed around and were brainless. They didn't really have much life to them. Duh, they're zombies. But with the upgraded virus and Requiem, they hold on to their past lives and have some of their old habits, like talking to themselves, doing the job they used to have, and they even kept their singing voice. This small change in enemy behavior really goes a long way in making the game stand out. It ties into the plot and makes returning to past areas more memorable. Also, I should touch on the ability to switch between first and third person. First person lets you appreciate the details more, and third person gives you a better sense of scope. The differences between the two makes the game a bit more replayable and immersive. By default, they set Grace and Leon to the respective camera that would suit them the best. First person for Grace to really help you sneak around and terrify you, and third person for Leon to straight up kick ass and take names. Jeez. The first person camera really helps with immersion. Having to peek around desks and cabinets while seeing zombies that are twice your size gives you a sense of dread. It makes you slow down a bit to really be sure of what the next step you want to take is. It fits Grace's gameplay perfectly and in a way that third person couldn't match. But thankfully you do have the option to switch between camera types in the options menu. I tried combat in first person as Leon, and while it's fun, I just can't justify not looking at him at all times. Third person is just so ingrained in his past at this point, I can't imagine playing as him in any other way. This game truly felt like a love letter to the franchise. I might not recommend it as the first one you play, but I can absolutely say that this game takes the best of the franchise so far and stitches them together almost flawlessly. The horror of 7, the action of 4, the story pulling from all those that came before, hey, that rhymed, returning to the setting of 1, 2, and 3, it genuinely felt like the best of the best. Both types of horror that they've experimented with come together to create an unforgettable experience. I can't personally put it above Resident Evil 4 due to some inconsistency issues, but it is a very close second and my preferred game if I'm in the mood for a taste of what makes me love Resident Evil. This game is without a doubt a requiem to the franchise, honoring the past and looking ahead to a new beginning. I can't wait to see what comes next, and hopefully this ends up feeling like just the beginning of something mind-boggling in the near future. This has been the most fun I've had with a game in a while. The story got me hooked, the gameplay reminded me of 2 of my favorite games, and just between you and me, a tear might have been shed. Thank you, Capcom, for making this relative newcomer to the franchise a fan of horror. So that's that, huh? I actually got done with Resident Evil so far. I started this channel not knowing that I would dedicate 2 months of my life to Resident Evil games. And, well, now I'm done. I have plenty of video ideas, but it still hurts a little, you know? If by chance you were there for my first video, I can't say thank you enough for being part of this journey. I've learned a lot since then, and I genuinely am proud of what I've made. Once again, thank you for being curious enough about me, and I hope you have a great day. Let me know what you thought of the game if you've already played it. Until next time, I hope I could make you smile today.